All right. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just for some logistics, I do want to apologize as far as the chat. We're gonna have to use the Q. It's a Q&A feature, so it's not a live chat. But if we can use the Q&A, I will be taking a look at this throughout, and yeah, looking forward to having a good session. We have some folks here that have joined us in person here in Houston. If any, for whatever reason, anyone cannot hear at any point, just give a shout and let us know. But yeah, looking forward to getting started to this session today. This is the 2026 Drone Business Growth Workshop. As you know, I've been a big advocate for the development of drone businesses for a long time. And I just felt it was, good timing to talk about, 2026, how we're using AI to improve our businesses and business development strategy, and so forth. Um, so for those who are just new to this group, what we do is, of course, we talk about Intel, we talk about how to best, build your business using the resources that are around us. I know firsthand how difficult it is to grow a business, starting out, from ground zero. And if there's one thing I've learned from 10 years being in business is you have to keep things simple, right? There's so many apps out there, there's so many different methods and things to do. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to break it into two parts. Part one is going to cover the leads framework that we're going to be structuring things around today. Plus, we'll talk about AI and prompt engineering and how to best use, those resources. We have a few guest speakers that are here with us here in Houston, and I wanted to invite them in. I'll tell you more about their backgrounds, but they have some interesting perspectives on business and in the drone space as well. And then part two, we're actually going to get into the meat of it. And actually, I have a tool that everyone will get access to, and you will be able to put together your sales pipeline and leave today with something concrete that you can go and start promoting and building the business from there. So by the end of the workshop, you will have the drone business operating system, which is a simple spreadsheet that will talk about how to keep your leads. There is a GPT that we created that basically gives you the scripts directly copy and paste that you would need to reach out to these said leads. I'm going to give you a list of my top 5 prompts that I use basically on a daily basis, and clear goals and KPIs you can track, and most importantly, just clarity, right? There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of, I always call it the fire hose of information that's out there, but we want to be able to give that clarity. And again, most of this revolves around the system that we call the lead system. So just quickly, for those who don't know who I am and my background, as I mentioned, I got into the drone industry about 10 years ago now. And I started out on the services side. So we were going to find, real estate, professionals in Baltimore and driving down to DC and taking pictures of these homes to here and there. And then early on, I realized that there was an opportunity not just to be a service provider, but to provide consultation and training services as well. So we started out doing actually STEM workshops, for youth in Baltimore, and then we segued into Part 107 FAA training for drone pilots as well. I've been able to travel all over the world because of drone technology, everywhere from Nigeria to Ethiopia. This is Kyrgyzstan. I mean, some of these places I couldn't even identify on a map before they asked me to come. But yeah, this is the power of drone technology, and when you're able to see different cultures and learn and experience different things, it is a very rewarding experience. So we're going to talk about some of those things today as well. Um, Before we get into like some of the tactics, I just wanted to talk about some of the mindset that goes into this, because honestly, we can talk about all the strategies in the world, but if the execution is not there, if the drive is not there, then of course the strategy really doesn't matter. So I always like to talk about the five stages, and this is the emotional cycle of change for drone entrepreneurs. Now, we all have this feeling, of course. We all love to get in the industry because most of us, just enjoy flying drones, right? It's that feeling of seeing that perspective, of knowing how big this industry is going to go. And we start out at stage one, right? Which is uninformed optimism. You're on cloud nine, you're thinking all the money that you're going to make, with drones, but you really don't know what you've gotten yourself into yet, right? Reality really hasn't hit as far as the business and what the opportunity is. So you can see here there's a optimism line and pessimism. So immediately after you exit stage one, everyone enters into stage two here. Stage two is what we call informed optimism, right? So sorry, informed pessimism, excuse me. So this is when reality sets in, right? You begin to see the hurdles and the doubt starts to overshadow the optimism that you once had. It's like, wow, like I really have to reach out to that many people, or I have to follow up and hear the no's, and it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be in stage one, right? So once you exit stage two, now you're into stage three, which I'm sure all entrepreneurs can relate to this. This is what we call the valley of despair. This is probably the lowest point of morale. This is, when challenges seem insurmountable, you've sent the emails, you've made the calls, you've reached out on LinkedIn, and you really don't know like what's going to happen, right? Sometimes it's like, I'm putting so much money into the business. When are things going to change? What's going to happen? So this is actually where most people quit, right? And the problem is most people just continue to repeat this cycle from one, two, and three. And it's like you jump on something else and you think that's going to work out, and then you still get to this valley, right? That everyone gets to as an entrepreneur. So the only people that win and get by are those who kind of stick it out and get to stage four, right? And the question always is, what do I need to do to get past stage three? It takes systems, right? It takes focus on what it actually is going to do to get you to that next level. So at stage four, we have informed optimism, right? You have the persistence, you start to see the solutions come together, and a renewed confidence, starts to emerge. And then, of course, once you push past that, you now have stage five success and fulfillment, and you're finally able to overcome, those challenges and achieve your goals. So I always say the only secret to business and successful people is they've just been in it long enough, right? There is no magic, equation or something that's gonna like, get you there quickly. Yes, you can see some good wins, but it's time. It's time, it's dedication, it's consistency, and yeah, this is just something that's kind of stuck with me throughout my career. Um, so what we want to talk about today, of course, is sales, right? I'm going to go ahead and assume most people here, you have your drone, you know how to fly, you're operating. But where I see most drone business owners held up comes with the sales process. So the real problem, why is sales difficult? The reality is, if you're a drone service provider, you're busy in the field, right? You don't have time for a consistent generating outreach. I remember, in the beginning when we were, yeah, driving from Baltimore, and anyone knows the DMV. I mean, the traffic is it's terrible, right? It's almost like here, Houston as well. But yeah, it takes time, right, to sit down and do outreach, right? It takes time to have that consistency, even getting in the mode, right? Of who am I going to reach out to? What am I going to say? By the time you get home, you're ready to relax from the long day of driving and go about it. So busy in the field, no marketing or sales background, right? A lot of us come from engineering type of backgrounds or stuff unrelated, to drones altogether. But there's not many that went to school for marketing or got a sales or, background and so forth. A lot of random marketing with no ICP. ICP is your ideal client profile. So there's, yeah, a lot of marketing. I think there's babies. There's, I think there's babies. Yeah. So random marketing with no clear target, client. All the times we see weak or generic messaging. So it's to say, hey, we provide drone services for construction clients, right? but are you going to the heart and the meat of their issues and the problems? We also see inconsistent outreach and follow up. So a lot of times, you reach out to someone, you may send a message, you may send one follow up, but the reality is two touches are not going to ever be enough, right? You really have to have that persistence, and we'll see exact examples of what a great follow up looks like. Um, and then finally, no operating system, which we'll get into how to solve that. So what do most young business owners do, right? We hop from method to method. One week is going to be cold outreach. The next week it's yeah, no, it's one week is cold outreach. The next time it's cold calling, right? And we kind of hop from these different methods. Welcome, welcome. And again, really, it comes to simplicity. It comes from having a simple method that you can follow, over and over. I mentioned, reaching out once or twice and then stopping, right? And it could be even the feeling that, oh, this person just kind of, blew me off. Like, why should I, keep reaching out to them? Also, it's, the fear of being salesy, right? Not wanting to feel like you're selling to someone, right? Or getting that icky feeling, right? Newsflash, we're in business, right? We have to sell, right? So some of those methodologies that we'll talk about could solve that. Changing scripts constantly, relying on referrals, right? When things get slow. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see is, you have a network of folks that you've worked with, and you're just hoping that they call you back, right? Instead of, doing outreach to new clients and then trying all types of tools and apps and things before actually having a system and structure in place. So you don't need more apps or automation tools. You don't need another CRM that you're not going to use anyway. You don't need a new cold email template every single week. You don't need 500 random leads, and you don't need a complicated funnel and figuring out how to do this. What you do need is clarity, right? So this is a funnel. This is something I call the ABC funnel. If anyone's seen Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, there's that funny that quote in there. It says coffees for closers, right? So you have the awareness stage, you have bonding, and then you have conversion. There's really only four ways to generate awareness for your company, right? There's value-based content. There's warm outreach, people that you know. There's cold outreach, people that you don't know. And then there are paid ads, right? Those are really the only four ways. Now, under those, with warm outreach, this could be DMs, this could be a newsletter, right? These are people that you've, interacted with. Of course, with cold outreach, these could be calls, this could be cold email as well. So what I always suggest is get really good at one to two of these methods. You don't need to be doing all four, right? I think what happens a lot of times is when we don't have any leads or we don't have any strategy, we just kind of hop and try each of these four things. When in reality, you really only need to get really good at two of these, right? To really get a consistent flow, of leads. And we'll talk about exactly how that looks. Now, once you get down into the bonding phase, this is where you nurture your leads, right? So the top for awareness, this is where we attract leads, this is where we get leads into our system. And bonding is what do we do after we get the lead, right? They don't just sit in our inbox, so they don't just sit in a form that they filled out online, right? We have to nurture them now. I think the biggest mistake is, we try to jump from awareness to conversion, right? And we don't actually nurture our leads, right? So nurturing are things like an ebook or lead magnet. This could be doing a demo, right? Or showing your portfolio, or VSO. This stands for video sales letter, right? Something that they can actually consume. Most of the time, we just want to send people to the website and just say, "Hey, check out our work," and then and go from there. When in reality, I think statistically, they say most people don't spend more than a minute to a minute and a half at any given time on a website, right? So you really can't count on your website to tell that whole story. So what you need is you need nurturing content. You need blog. You need something that you can send to your client and say, hey, we've done this work before, or check out our ebook, right? Something that they can pass along to their boss or their superiors, right? Rather than just relying on, them to figure it out on their own. In general, we are still in a very, I would say, educational phase of the industry in that we have to tell our clients the benefits, right? We can't just assume they know about drones. Or they hear a drone, they're gonna, jump to the services. They have to be convinced, right? They have to be educated on, how drones are used. Um, so once you get past the nurturing phase, you have the right content to build trust and credibility with your client. Then you can move to, scheduling that call, right? Having that DM to schedule a call, having that meeting with them, and then presenting them with your offer, right? But again, it's very hard for you to jump from awareness to conversion without that kind of nurturing sequence there. Um, so as I mentioned, yeah, one to two, primary, channels of awareness and getting clients. Um, Also very important to have dedicated time blocked for outreach. This is something that I actually had to do. I had to put it on my schedule for when I'm going to actually do this, right? Because our schedules are so, hectic, on a week to week basis. When do you do outreach? When do you do, a certain amount of things? But as a business owner, right, you have to make time, for these things. And what most tend to do is we focus so much on the operations, right? Working in the business rather than working on the business. So consistency through scheduling and delegating these tasks, as well. So again, ABC funnel. When you think about um, how like think about how many people you have in your awareness section right now. How many leads do you have? Right? How many people are going through your nurturing sequence right now? Right? Are you nurturing anyone? Right? Is anyone getting any type of content, from there? So the level and the numbers that you have will definitely determine, how successful you are. And we do have, of course, time for any questions as well. So feel free, folks that are here as well, just raise your hand, or if we get anything in the chat here as well, I will be checking it often. All right, so we've learned about the system. We learned about the funnel, what a funnel looks like. How do we jump from awareness? But now the question is, how do we implement this, right? How do we make this a part of our business? And the way that we do that is with something that we call the leads system. And the lead system is basically a five-step process that we came up with, and it really just helps you break down, how to properly build your funnel. And we'll go through a tool that everyone will get access to here to help figure out, the best way to do this. So the L starts with locate your audience, right? Niche down, identify your ideal client. You can find them in online communities, LinkedIn, at key industry events. And you want to build a list of your top leads into a simple spreadsheet, right? You don't have to get all 100, at one time, but if you are breaking this up, maybe it's 20 or 30, per day, and then eventually you get to that mark. But you want to be very clear on locating where your audience is going to be, both online and in person as well. The E is for establish your brand, right? This is what we're going to optimize our LinkedIn profile, our Google My Business page, right? So you have to have a Google Business page set up. That's also getting updated over time as well. And then you want to make sure that you're posting some sort of, piece of content, if it's weekly or bi-weekly, that helps, grow your audience. The A is for automate outreach, right? After you have your brand in place, after you know exactly who you're targeting, you now have to start doing the outreach, right? You can't just depend on, folks to come to you, right? You have to be doing deliberate outreach, and we'll talk about exactly how to do that. The D is for develop relationships. This is going back to that nurturing that I mentioned as well. Engaging, right? Following up, which is a big, big thing. When do you follow up? How do you follow up? We'll talk about that as well. And then scaling with systems. I like to just say this is, using AI, being productive, and I have a ton of prompts that I'm going to show you here as well. So there are two type of leads. Um, there's an inbound lead and an outbound lead. Maybe before I go to that, maybe I'll get some thoughts. We'll make it a little interactive here for us in person, and then for those of you online as well. I'd like to actually hear maybe a definition of what is an inbound lead. Anyone here want to take a guess at what an inbound lead is when we're talking about inbound versus outbound?
Within the community or your network
Okay, for inbound.
or inbound.
Okay, close. Yep.
Somebody reaching out to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So someone that comes to you,
Okay.
right? Someone that approaches you. This could be in your inbox. This could be via DM, right? Yes, but someone that approaches you, right? So that means outbound is someone that you reach out to, but we approach, right? Um, and I think we have. Yep. Okay. Thanks, Kay. I wish you guys could see the chat here, but I see the Zoom on here. Yeah, so Kay said a referral from someone that you know. And then I think that's maybe Adrian said, yes, I set up a LinkedIn business in addition to my profile. Yeah, we'll talk about LinkedIn using profile, business profile versus personal profile as well. So two type of leads. So inbound leads, of course, they contact you first. They respond to your content or referral. They fill out a form or send an inquiry. They already show interest, and they still need to be qualified, right? Just because, and we'll talk exactly about this, just because it's an inbound lead does not mean it's a quality inbound lead, right? So now we get into lead filtering. So that means outbound leads is, you identify them based on your ideal client profile. You initiate the outreach. You contact them via email, LinkedIn, or phone. They may not know of you yet, and you create, the opportunity from reaching out. So you want to have a healthy balance of both of these. And again, most kind of rely on the inbound to come in without having an actual outbound strategy to use. So as I mentioned, all leads are not quality leads, right? The company clearly fits. So 6 ways to be super clear on this. The company clearly fits my defined niche and service focus. They have an active product, an asset, or ongoing operation right now. There's some sort of intel that you've heard about them being active in some sort of way. There's a visible problem that I can solve with drone data, be it inspection or reporting or compliance documentation. They regular hire vendors or subcontractors for specialized services. You want to make sure that, of course, you're speaking to the decision maker, right? And that's always like one of the main questions. How do I reach the decision maker? Who is the best person to talk to? You don't want to start, so down total hole that by the time you get up to the right person, it's a long time, or they don't even push you through. Um, and then, of course, they have the money, they have the budget, right? And this is not something that they just want to explore. So targeting the right people is really so important. All right. So again, getting back to the lead system, and I'm going to actually share the resource that everyone will get access to. You all should be able to see that. All right. So I got to figure out how to share this with folks. All right. So I'm gonna answer. Yes, yeah, we're gonna get right into the ideal client profile right here. So I'm gonna answer one of these messages and then see if everyone can see that answer. But I just typed in the link to this resource, and this is basically what we're going to use to log in all of our. Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. So this is what we call the Drone Business Operating System. This is something that we created to basically allow you to Let me make sure this is on share. I think I shared the share version. Okay. So if you are accessing it now, you can actually go to a file and create a copy. And then you could actually copy this over to your own Google profile. So what we have here, if you see on the bottom, we have basically our lead system in spreadsheet form, right? So, I wanted to make this as simple and as easy to process so that as you are also going through this and developing your own system, you have a central location for mapping out exactly how you implement the system. So we always first start with I call it the rule of one, right? You're solving one problem within one niche for one specific, type of client. Um, I always suggest having one primary target client, right? And then two secondary clients that are relatively in the same area, right? This is always like, step one. So as an example, you can see, example here, David is a transmission and distribution operations leader at an electric utility, responsible for inspecting power lines and substations. His biggest challenge is inspection coverage while reducing field crew risk and preventing outages, right? Pretty descriptive here, but you do want to be very clear on when we say who is your ideal client profile, it's what do they call themselves, right? What would you search for to find them, right? Their titles. So maybe we can, see here in the chat and then maybe ask around the room as well. Maybe can we get, maybe some example ICPs, maybe Andrew, who would you say is your main type of client? Yeah.
Uh, foreign governments.
Foreign governments, yeah. That purchase drones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
purchase solutions and drones.
Yep. Pretty straightforward, right? Anyone else? Keenan?
Construction and surveying companies.
Yeah, construction and curb surveying companies. I'm gonna take it a step further, right? Because that's construction and surveying, but who do you target in those companies? That's your ICP.
Like project managers.
Project managers,
Or
right?
crew survey managers.
Yep, crew survey managers, right? So you would identify who that exact person is and then make a list of those people with that title, right? That's the effective way to like identify um, ICP. Chris, I know you're not in the drone space, but who would you say is your ICP?
It's so I look at that as like center of influence, so it's gonna be probably CPAs and like state attorneys or
Yep.
who I need to talk to.
Yep. Exactly. So anyone else?
Brokers.
Brokers? Realtors and brokers?
Mhm.
Okay. Residential, commercial?
Residential.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, again, being focused on, detail about who they are, where they are as well. So do we have any online? Ken says I'm starting with real estate and targeting key broker once past the gatekeeper. All right, next is construction, small scale. The supervisor can work their way up to program managers. Okay. Um, Ime said marketing directors. All right. Awesome, awesome. All right, so yeah, we see big, large scale firms for security operations. Um, awesome. Yeah. So the idea here is to really write down exactly who your ICP is, right? That's one of the main things I want you to leave here today is who is my primary target client, right? From there, you can list, two secondary clients, two secondary ICPs. I would only suggest though that you're not, um, the secondary and primary aren't too unrelated to each other, right? So if you have, your primary ICP is a private construction project managers, I wouldn't choose, secondary as, I don't know, agricultural, something like that, right? You want to kind of be in the same or relatively same industry. So maybe construction project managers, engineering, supervisors, something of that sort you want to be specific on. So clarity on your ICP is so very important. I see someone else here, Samir. I think Samir does drone cleaning in San Antonio. So he has facilities personnel, property owners and managers. Yes, yeah, you're in a unique space with the drone cleaning, but you still have, a primary ICP that, you want to reach out to. So he would make a list of all those people, right, in the area and start a campaign to reach those. Um, Now another thing, once you have your ICP, next is what are you offering the ICP, right? And the way to think about this is there's a difference between services and your offer, right? Services are just a list of things that you do. Your offer is actually how you package your services into something that actually sounds good. So we'll look at an example of this that I have here. All right. So this is an example of an offer, right? So we help construction teams reduce rework and progress disputes by delivering recurring reality capture outputs, weekly progress photo sets and video, plus orthomosaics and volume of cut fill reporting when needed. So project managers can verify quantities, track schedule, and communicate status with stakeholders using consistent dated site records. Notice we didn't even mention the word drone in here, right? Because this is getting to the roots of what are their pain points, right? What are they actually trying to solve, right? Sometimes, it could be drones, sometimes, it could be another tool, but a lot of times I feel, we get so caught up on the drone as being the product, right? When we lose sight of actually what are they going through, right? So as long as they can understand that you can solve their problems, truthfully, they could really care less if you use a drone or not, right? A lot of times we say, that your client could care less about the type of drone that you buy. It's all about, how you're solving their problems. Someone in here asks, can I reach out to these ICPs on LinkedIn? Absolutely. That's the main goal of this, right? Once you have clarity on who, then you just make a list of them. You can go on LinkedIn, of course. There are other automated ways to maybe save a bit of time. But yes, the idea is once you have a clear ICP, you make a full list of those people that you need to, reach out to. Um, So what is a bad example of an offer, right? Just saying, hey, we provide drone services for construction sites, including area photos, videos, mapping, and 3D models at competitive prices. And this honestly may sound good to, yeah, some folks, right? But why is this weak? There's no clear problem being solved with this statement. You're just saying what you do. There's no defined outcome. There's no structure or timeline. There's no business impact. Right. If I'm a engineering supervisor managing some large infrastructure, okay, you do these things, but what does that mean to me? Right? What are you offering me? It's not drone and aerial photos. It's again, it's weekly progress photo sets, it's the orthomosaics, it's verifying quantities, tracking the schedule, communicating the status, right? The things that they need to kind of think about. On a daily basis. Um, and then of course, it doesn't this is we forces the buyer to figure out for themselves what the value is. Right. You want to tell them the value instead of just kind of explaining on a surface level what you do. So this pretty much describes activities, not the results. Right. So it's these little things that go into how you are pitching your services that really mean a lot there. All right. So before we get to the brand, all right. So we have our ideal client profile. We have an offer, right, that we can give them. Now we need to build our to list. And I always suggest having a warm list and a cold list. Many people try to conflate these two together, but your warm list are people that you have either done work for or that right? Former clients, referrals, LinkedIn connections, in utilities or people that you met at a conference, right? as opposed to a cold lead or people that have no idea that you exist, right? People that you want to kind of reach out to. But again, most people try to merge these two lists together when in reality, both of these people have vastly different, ways to sell to them, right? You would sell to a cold lead different than you would sell to a warm lead. So however many you have for your warm list, it could be 10, it could be 20, right? It could be a lot more than that. But make sure that at least you can visualize and see that list, right? It's really, really important that you're tracking who's on that list. Even right now, if you think about, all right, where are my top 5 deals, people that I've talked to in the last, 30 to 60 days, right? Those people would go on that list. And then a cold list, right? This is your targets, for the very near future. Now, we'll get into like cold emailing and the advantages of doing both. But you don't have to feel like you have to jump all into cold emailing and setting up all these campaigns and things like that, right? If you're just kind of trying to get some traction, I would work on building up the warm list, right? Getting that to a certain state before you start, again, different methods. Um, Last thing on the locate your audience side is something that a lot of people underestimate, right? It's the power of case studies. You really can't sell your services and what you do unless you can show and prove, right? And so the question always is, well, what if I haven't done that work before? What if I, don't have anything to show? Well, I only see there's really 3 ways to, to increase your case study, or to get, case studies. One is offering the work at a heavily discounted rate, right? And you can be upfront with folks. I know sometimes they say, "Oh, we don't want to make it seem like we haven't done this before." Well, you can be open and honest. Hey, we're trying to break into the construction field. We want to get some, jobs under our belt. We're willing to offer this at a discounted rate, right? The second way is offering it for free, right? Which is not always the most popular, method, but hey, you have to get your foot in the door. And I can absolutely say that there are plenty of times in my career where we've done work for free, we got ourselves in the door, and then it's led to so many other, great opportunities, from there. Um,
A third one could be a partnering with a great customer now
yeah,
and developing something that they truly need,
absolutely.
kind of specifically.
Yeah, strategic partners.
Mhm.
I think that's always underestimated as well. And yes, it's something I was actually talking about with Zipline. We had a meeting with Zipline the other day, and we were just kind of joking about, Zipline. They are one of 4 delivery companies operating in Dallas right now, and they're going to also be in Houston. And when you think about everything that it takes to be a delivery company and probably the small amount of opportunities to get in with a Walmart or something like that, right? They are, yes, they're competitors, right? But in the same sense, they're also very, they work with each other, right? They know they have to, work with each other. Whereas, you may have one guy in Houston who does, um, let's say commercial real estate photos, and he may be worried about other commercial real estate drone people when it's in reality, there's so much work and opportunity out here, right? So you might as well figure out, yes, how do we, strategize on certain things, and then it doesn't even have to be strategizing or a partnership with a drone company, right? It could be some of these adjacent, services as well. So I know that, yeah, got a little off the case studies, but this is these are the things that tend to work as well. I do want to show a tool right here. This is actually one of our first tools that we're going to give away for the session. And this is actually something I developed because I saw that there was a need for, okay, there was a need for how to actually package your case study, right? So we say go out and do your case study, but what should it actually look like? So this is a link that you will get in the follow-up. I have a one-pager that I will send out to show you exactly how to use this. And it's basically called the case study OS, case study operating system. And if you needed to create a case study about what happened, you'll basically use this tool, and it's pretty simple to use. There's just 5 inputs that you would have to put in, and I'll show you exactly how effective this can be. Um, all right, so we're just gonna put out, and actually maybe we can get an example from someone here in the room. So just thinking about any job, maybe Keegan, you probably put something in here, but we're just gonna say, who was the client, what job was done, what problem did the client have before you stepped in, what did your team deliver, and then what changed after that. So we can start maybe, who was the client and what industry did they work in?
You'd say, surveying industry, surveying client. The job would be the survey, just a regular field survey of a market property.
Okay, field survey of commercial property. How big is the property?
Usually about 10 acres.
All right. 10 acres. And then this was what were like okay, actually we can just go to this. What problem did the client face before you stepped in with this service?
Can be drafting speed. So how quickly they can get their site data converted to CAD conversion
Okay. Get site data.
or drafting.
Okay. Site data. Sorry, how quickly they can get site data?
I guess just drafting.
Okay. All right. And then what did your team deliver? Like, what were the deliverables?
Site orthomosaics
Orthos.
and GCP with GCP integration.
All right, with GCP integration. Whoops. GCP integration. And then what changed after you delivered this? Yeah, like and this typically, is there any metrics or maybe the speed of time or how much money you save them?
It's gonna be, the change is gonna be the decrease in time spent with the field crew like on the active work site. And then a decrease in the drafting time,
Okay.
as well as an increase in total accuracy.
Awesome. All right. So to use this tool effectively, really you only have to enter these 5 outputs. And what you will get as a result, once you enter it here, is we've designed this tool to really give you a way to package this into different formats. So as you can see here, the title, Accelerating Site Drafting with Drone North and Mosaics, um, surveying industry. And then this is a list of everything that this tool will give you. So we'll give you a short summary, a full case study, which is about 1,000 words, so plus or minus, or a short version you could put on your website. And I'll just show you, just the outline. So this is just a quick summary, right? What was delivered, who the client is, high resolution ortho mosaic, ground control points, of course. And then this actually gives more of a narrative, right? So what was the challenge before you came in there, right? The primary issue was drafting speed, traditional workflow required, extensive field time required, collecting data, multiple site revisits for missed details, manual interpretation for ground conditions, slower CAD drafting due to limited visual references. This created friction in 2 areas. Field crews were tied up longer than necessary. Drafting technicians lacked high resolution, georeference, visual-based flow and production. So you have the challenge, and then, all right, based on that, what was the approach? So the drone team deployed a structured aerial mapping workflow to cover the 10-acre commercial parcel. The scope included so on and so forth, right? So you can see how this is a narrative, right, that you can now use to pitch to other people, right? When it just to begin, we just had what we did. Now we have a full narrative here. Let's go to the next part. So this is a website version. So if you want to just plop some wording on your website about what happened, and now it takes that long description, and you can, copy and paste that on the website. You also get a LinkedIn post, right? So drafting speed is one of the biggest bottlenecks in the on small surveying firms. Recently, we supported a surveying team on a 10-acre commercial site that was slowing down in both field and in CAD. And instead of increasing crew hours, we integrated drone mapping with ground control. Here's what changed, you know, copy and paste LinkedIn. Newsletter block, right? Um, Same thing. You could drop it in, monthly newsletter, copy and paste. Here are slides if you wanted to insert it into a pitch deck that you have to show other clients, hey, this is what we did for the client. And it even has an outreach email. You can send and say, hey, we recently supported a surveying firm and so forth. So now, and a checklist of which you would need to include a wide angle shot of the site, an image of one of the GCP placements on ground. And this is really interesting, right? Because you may forget to do this, right? If you're on the field and you're thinking about, hey, how do I actually capture this properly? Now you can see, hey, make sure you get a photo of that GCP point, right? Because that could be valuable to someone else. So yes, this is pretty much, how to take a case study to the next level. Is not just a paragraph summary, right? It's how are you using it to promote yourself in other ways. And this goes back to nurturing and so forth. All right. So with that, we have more to cover, but I did have two guests that I wanted to maybe take a little intermission and kind of hear from them, so that they can talk about their approach to business and the things that we're talking about here today. Let me actually bring up the form that I have. So this is a worksheet that will go out to everyone, and this has exactly the things that we are covering here today. But right now, I wanted to actually give a few minutes to our two guest speakers. First up, we're going to have Chris Hall, was a really good friend and colleague of mine. Chris Hall he's a financial advisor, the vice president with Q5 Wealth Management. Chris is a certified exit planning advisor, so a SEPA, who works closely with business owners on growth planning, exit strategy preparation, and comprehensive wealth management. Before joining Ameriprise, he spent 12 years at Morgan Stanley in advisory and private banking roles, giving him deep insight on financial complexities entrepreneurs face. He's known for bringing clarity, structure, and balanced perspective to business owners navigating major financial decisions. And as Chris, prepares to come up, the reason I wanted Chris to give a few words is I feel a lot of times in business, we focus so much on, again, on the technical side of things that we don't really understand how to structure things from just a pure business fundamental perspective. So Chris has a lot of experience working with companies that have done exits. And we've been talking for a while about, what does it mean for a company to be in exit mode, right? So I wanted just Chris to talk about just, yeah, the basics of business, and then how this all relates to what we're talking about here today. So yeah, Chris, appreciate you taking me in.
I've been taking all kinds of notes.
Yeah.
First one was Valley of Despair, which I feel like all week
Mhm.
may be the Valley of Despair.
Mhm.
This is a live example of your ICP, COI.
Yeah.
Because of my relationship with ANO, I'm in front of all of you today. Would not have happened, right? So my scale of being able to talk to folks, tell my story happened all because of this. So thank you. And thank you guys for your time. I know I don't have drone entrepreneur on my business card, so before you mute me or turn off the video out there, I'm going to bring a few things to you. I'll give you three things today. I'm going to give you some thought-provoking strategy. I'm going to give you a tool for your war chest, and then I'll leave you with a takeaway that I'll hold you accountable to, if that's all right. As Ano said, I'm a financial advisor with Q5 Wealth Management. I myself am a business owner, so I understand the valleys of despair more than the other side usually. It takes a lot. It takes a village. It takes nothing but time, which is something that we don't have infinite amount of. But it takes passion. Finally love what I'm doing, as you all do too. And so let's see how that correlates. When you look at my world, I was a banker for 15 years. I mean, I was a residential commercial banker. I worked at Bank of America in Charlotte and went to Morgan Stanley 12 years. I spent in the private bank, 10 of that. there. And then I jumped into practice, went into business for myself 3 years ago. And just left Morgan Stanley, so I'm 3 months at transitioning from a place I spent most of my working career. So you talk about drinking from your fire hose. I think I got the other end on my side. But it's all down to the basics. What I'm actually here for, what could I do for you, or what could you do for me, or vice versa. This placemat is a great example. If you leave here today and start doing everything that Ano has shown you, which is what you should be doing, because that's how you operate your business, you're going to have less time to do the stuff that I can potentially help you do. The world of financial advisory used to be stockbroker. You have to call me to buy your Tesla stock. That world has completely changed. You can do that on Robinhood, on your phone for free now. So, where I kind of come in for the business are the things that you should be thinking about that you're not. The things that you should have kind of a strategy and a checkup on that you're probably not. Those of you that are, I'd still love to talk to see how you fit all that in. But in my role, I work with a lot of business owners, and right now, I have a case study. I have a live example. So one of my clients, he owns a roofing company, and he has for 42 years. And through my consultative exit planning approach with him, I'm doing more than just managing his investments. And he's ready to exit. So for 2 years, we've been working on his exit. He's got a son that's actually ready to run the business, which is rare for family businesses. That doesn't always work that way. So his implementation strategy is good there. He just had a random knock on his door for some investor group to buy his commercial real estate, where he actually runs his roofing company and his fleet of trucks. He bought it for 800 grand, and they offered him $9 million for it. It's a great concept, and it comes with problems too. But because of where I was positioned, we were able to do a 1031 exchange, save him on some taxes. So there, in fact, me coming in as a partner, I was able to limit some of his what do you want to say? Something that he wouldn't have known, which is where I think I bring value. So planning, liquidity, legacy strategy, depending on how you take your compensation, all of your businesses may be structured differently, S corp, individual LLC. I sit at a seat that allows me to create synergies for business owners just like you, doing completely different things. You guys have a certain niche that you're in, but that allows me to say, well, I know what other people are doing in a similar seat. Here's what's worked for them. So that kind of helps us look across the broader platform. So financial planning is kind of the cornerstone of what my group will do. We diagnose you as an individual and your financial fortress. Your business is your baby. It will take all of your time, as it should. But a third party partner, a strategic partner, I think you mentioned earlier, someone that can hold you accountable to yourself in terms of, are you making the right moves? And that's not just investments, right? You have to protect the castle, is what I call it, right? Because your financial fortress is yours. It could be your legacy to leave. The business has success. You're going to go into a new level of complexities that are great, but it comes with a lot of things that you need to protect yourself from, IRS being one of those. So this is kind of a placemat, and this is where I say strategic partner. Capital and liquidity are what I did for 12, 15 years for folks. All businesses run better if you have extra money. And how do you get that? Sometimes that's not as easy as going to a bank and asking or even begging for it. So there's unique lending capabilities that I have a seat to. Are you philanthropic? Do you have passion outside of your business? Do you care about something in the community? I just did a walk for ALS a couple months ago. I lost my grandfather to was Alzheimer's, and ALS for different things, Alzheimer's. So I have a goal to kill that disease if I can in my lifetime. So I just became a little more charitable and philanthropic. I'm also on the rodeo committee, which is charitable, but it's also too much fun for those of you around Houston. So I'll leave you with this place card as one strategic partner. For business owners, something that I can do at no cost is I can give valuations on businesses. I have a lot of partners that try to work with me and my clients, and they would love nothing more than to get time with you as my client. And my job is to kind of block and tackle all that noise out, right? You don't have time for that, neither do I. But business evaluations are services that through Ameriprise in my firm, and get a pulse check on what's the value of your company. Not everyone does this as a freelancer or a hobby business. You may have a legitimate market need for your business one day. Are you ready for that? Right now, roofing companies, landscaping companies, private equity buys a lot of things that they know they can do right now. Your business, this industry will be there, if it isn't already, one day. How do we get ready for that? Are you ready for that? That's what I kind of offer in my seat. So you'll go to the second slide, and we can go deeper on all this stuff. I'd love to do talks after this. That's all I do all day long. But go to the other one. That's the takeaway challenge. You want to go to the link has it's got a PFS in it. There were 3.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the folder.
And so as he pulls this up, one thing that I told myself this year is I'm not gonna use the term I'm too busy. And I'm not gonna let anybody else say that to me. Who isn't busy? And so when folks are giving you that I'm too busy, I'm like, well, who ain't? We all have that problem. So it's priority. So that's what it is. It's either I'm not important enough to prioritize, or you are important enough for me to prioritize. And so a lot of times with our business owner clients, you're running a business, man. It cannot run without you, which is also an issue being a key man risk. But I'm allowed to come in and sit with you as a strategic advisor and check on the pulse of you. And there's a lot of value in that. Here's a tool that I told you I'd leave you for your war chest. Those of you that have seen this, we call it a PFS, personal financial statement. There'll be copies. You guys can have this. When's the last time you did this?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Do you know everything you own, everything you owe? Do you know every single asset, the considered an asset, in the business and out of the business? Insurance is huge. I've been licensed in insurance. It wasn't something that I was selling or even positioning. You talk about inbound leads. There's a whole world of that I have partners that are brilliant that I can bring in. You're running a business and all of a sudden that your spouse is filing for divorce. Is the business protected? Is 50% going to them? Something happens to you today. In Houston, we all take our life in our hands on that highway. It's a matter of time before you get in an accident. Just hopefully it's not a severe accident. But if you could walk out of this room and continue, what is the business going to do? What does that mean for your family? If you have family, what does that mean for your partners? If you have a partner and something happens to that partner, does the business have insulated protection for, buyout agreements? Does it have insulated protection from, dementia, mental illness, or a real thing? If you're not incapacitated, you still have authority, legally. I've seen that happen in a few ways, especially with family, and that's things we don't like to get involved with. We get involved with, but it can just be a situation that you don't want to be in. So this is something that you'll have. Update this. If you can do it once a year, but it would be a good exercise for you to do. And then I'm happy to review it with you. We can look through it and we can look kind of what a gap analysis would be in your world. We can take a look under the hood. Look, sometimes the advice I end up giving is that you're all set. This is bulletproof, you're tight. I wish I could help you right now. Maybe I can in the future. Let's continue to talk. Most of the time I can uncover something that we just need to look a little further into, right? Like a doctor. Sometimes you honestly need a second opinion. They're not all built the same. So move on to the third, and I'll just leave you with your takeaway. How many of you are planning your retirement as a business owner? Yeah, right. All the money goes into running a business, Chris. So, because I sit in my seat, one of my favorite things to do is to save clients on taxes. I just have a thing with taxes, right? You got to pay the IRS. You go to prison, you don't have to tip the IRS. So that's kind of how we operate. One of those ways is called the individual or solo 401k. Solo K, if anybody's ever heard of it. In a business world of owning an entity, STEP IRAs, but probably you've heard of those that have been around the longest. they've kind of been replaced. And this came with updates in the tax code for Secure 2.0 with like what, two administration ago with the Congress that came out. This is a way, if you are an operator and you are a sole employee of your business, LLC, S corp, however you structure it, you can contribute as an employee and as an employer. So this will actually juice up your retirement savings abilities. All your contributions go in here, they grow tax free. You can do a Roth piece on this where you can take it out tax free, but this is one of those plays, and this is $70,000 a year is the limit on this. That's significantly higher than what the tax code has been allowing for business owners. Your spouse can work in your business and still qualify, but if you have employees, I have something else for us to talk about. But this makes up a lot of folks, that just have an LLC that they're operating. This is the piece that a lot of my business owners, I'm having to take advantage of. Most people don't know it's there. If you know it's there, I'd love to take a look at it with you as well. We can look at your application then. But this is just one of those tricks, right? Like, why would you work with someone like me or vice versa? Is my whole world has been doing stuff like this, and I do it across folks that look just like you. I'm business agnostic in a sense. Like if you want to operate your drone company, I have no idea how to do that. But I can tell you how to save the most for your retirement as a business owner and keep it from the IRS. So that's kind of the strategic partnership that I play with. And just leaving you with that piece, it's I wish we had inbound leads all the time.
Yeah.
So I would take those three things. Again, I'm here because of his ICP COI example. You guys wouldn't have met me. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have met you and those of you online. But I am a business owner myself. I know the pains and I know the successes. You should be closing business all the time. If you're not, it's like oxygen. The more business you close, the better you breathe. There's going to be a difficult pivot point for you to have everything else kind of managed. And that's where, I get to work with my clients. And eventually we talk about exiting. Some of you are going to be faced with that one day. It's going to be a good problem to have. This is a new industry. Not many people have gone through it. Maybe I'll be the first advisor to have a whole book of exits from drone companies, and that you're getting paid a significant amount of money for what you build. But there's a lot of planning that needs to happen way before that occurs. And that's kind of what I offer my time for. All consults are free. Unfortunately, I'm not an attorney. I can't bill you per hour. But I just love to talk to folks, business owners in the community. If we can do something, let's do it. If not, let's stay in touch, kind of thing, right? So, questions you have online or in the room?
You based in Houston?
Based in Houston. Yeah,
Okay.
I have an office off Allen Parkway. I live in Montrose.
Right.
Yeah, I used to work in the Galleria, Williams Tower.
Just kind of get a good idea of all that you can do specifically for new business owners and growing. Can you help support financing and growth?
So capital is key, right? And so there's certain, I'm a banker background, so that also helps me position my practice. Yes, I have commercial real estate, private debt funds that I work with. I have a web of network that tries to feed capital to the right people. And so there's a lot of introductions I can make. It depends on your balance sheet, depends on your income statements and cash flows. Luckily in my world, I do a lot of alternative investing. So I know a lot of the private equity and a lot of the hedge funds that try to place money or get me to place money for my clients. The biggest ones to the smallest shops locally. I was a private banker for 10 years. And so lending on assets and securities-based lending was a bread and butter product I did. You don't have to do underwriting or go to a bank for that. And bridge loans are important because sometimes you just need a little more time. It's coming, right? The close is coming, but I need to get across the bridge. So I have a world with that. It's been expensive to borrow money lately, so debt has been kind of shot away from. But you're still going to buy your house. You're still going to get your car note. So I can go through any kind of debt, liability, balance sheet. That's probably the best. I'm getting better at the rest of it, but yeah, I can see cap intro is what I call that, capital introduction. And I mean, I have a book of clients and Q5, we have 2 billion under management. We have investors that are at a point that like to put money into good ideas, and obviously our businesses are very client confidentiality, but if we have someone that has significant wealth that wants to meet business owners, we obviously will introduce them to whoever they want to talk to, and then the pitch is yours. But there's avenues out there that I can see and love to talk about it.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
Management.
Thank you
Anyone
for-
have any questions? We'll just put them in the chat, or there's some links to Chris's resources that will be sent out as well. But yeah, I appreciate it.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
appreciate
No
that,
doubt.
man.
And so,
Yeah.
it's having the right partner,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
we come in many phases.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna roll out. Nano's gonna share mine.
Yeah,
Email.
yeah, we have a links and to everything that he showed, and yeah, appreciate it.
I'm on the phone, on email, all day, all night. So let's connect and start it when anyone's talking. I gotta go do what he's telling me, 'cause I'm not doing that. So today was very valuable.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
And that's an example.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for that. And look, these are the things that we tend not to think about as business owners, and I know for sure I'm a lot of times just so head down into making things work and getting to the next day where 10 years later,
We got some work. to do.
yeah, we gotta,
Yeah.
it's all these things. So, super excited to have that. I'm gonna jump right into the next phases of the lead system, and then we'll call on the next guest here. But if we kind of get back to what we're talking about with the lead system, we went through the L, of course, for locate your audience, and remember that this is really all that you need to kind of lay that foundation, right? The ICP, your offer, your warm list, your cold list, and some case studies, right? Once you have those under the belt, then you can confidently go out and start thinking about the next step. Now, phase two, the next step is what we call an E for establish your brand. And I've spent a lot of time about, all right, what are the exact brand items that you need to actually build, your business. So, one pagers are super, super important. And maybe, those of us in the chat here, maybe, help us explain, or maybe just give it examples of what type of marketing materials that you give to your clients, right? And maybe, some folks in here are going like, when you're reaching out to people, is it just a business card? Is it a brochure of some sorts? What have you all used here and online as well? I'm interested to hear some methods you guys have used.
A one pager.
One pager.
Typically.
All right. You just on Canva, you just kind of designed it. Yep. Okay. Any other like types of materials, anything anyone else has used? All right. A lot of times, just send folks to the website, which again, yes, it's very essential to have a website, but on average, there's only, I think, oh yeah, I said like a minute to a minute and a half where people actually, on average, look at a website, and there's no way you can retain the information in that. So having a one page is very crucial. A pitch deck, right, is also very highly recommended because once you have your meeting, you have to show them something. Right, you're not going to just talk off the cuff and just say, "Oh, well, yeah, we can come in and bring our drones." Right. This is a very straightforward way to, to show your case studies and just to give that clarity. Right, they will need to send something to their boss, right, or to yes, maybe hopefully they are the right decision maker, but they still have to get it approved. Right. So you want to give them something that they can actually send forward and say, yes, this is what we're going to pay $20,000 to. Right. And there are certain things that have in place. I could have had here, for those working in construction and other, those type of fields, capabilities statement. Right. Just think in terms of, all right, if I'm a vendor, what or subcontractor, what do subcontractors typically need, for this type of work? So one pager, pitch deck, ebook is also, very important as well. Ebooks are it's more of a nurturing tool, right? Ebooks can be used to explain the different processes, that you have. If you see here, we have this lead magnet, how to reduce project cost, the real ROI of precision precision drone mapping for construction and engineering. Right. This is content that's valuable to, your ICP. Now, of course, they're not going to read end to end, page to page, but what this is doing is it's boosting your professionalism, right? It's positioning you as a thought leader, right? And it just kind of goes above and beyond what the average drone company is probably going to have. Right. So now you have a pitch deck that you can send them. You have an ebook that you can send them. Right. So really, this comes down to having multiple pieces of valuable content that you can give to any client and not relying on your business card or your website to do that. Something memorable, right? Yes. Something they can flip through, something they can see your logo multiple times. It's multiple touch points that we have to, keep in mind. Other thing with the branding, you can see the differences between this is something we're working with Argon DroneWorks, JJ out in Arizona, and some of you may know I'm not the biggest fan of drone logos. I think a lot of times it just makes the logo very busy, right? So think about the branding. How does your logo look? What is the feeling people get when they see that logo? Do you have uniformity, right? Are you using the same fonts, the same color scheme, right? Or are you kind of bouncing around between your different assets? I always like showing this example because some of the most popular and well-known drone companies, you can see there's no logo right in the drone. These are strong kind of symbols, obviously very well thought out. But yeah, these are just some examples of how branding is done properly. I mentioned that the one pagers. You can see the before and afters of folks that we've worked with. Other examples of the lead magnets, here as well. Letters, LinkedIn banners, also very important, right? And I really underestimated this until I saw the results that it got because you got to think if someone's coming to your page, they're gonna, your LinkedIn page is the new resume, right? So when someone comes to your page, you really need to be very clear on what you do and what you offer, right? So that let's say they're only on your page for a few seconds or a minute or so, they can always understand that. So this is just like a checklist of things that you can remember. This is also, of course, in the drone business operating system, which you all have access to now. A few other things that we didn't talk too much about, but I do have a video that you can go check out as well. Is the website audit, how to do actually a website audit and understand the different phases and different pages on your site. I actually have a video that walks exactly through how to do a website audit for drone business. And then Google My Business. I did mention this first phase, but it is so, so important that you have a Google My Business set up for your company. We're still in a phase that if someone's looking for a drone company, they're literally going to type in drone services in Houston or drone services in Baltimore or drone company in Arizona. So if you're not popping up, you're literally losing money, right? By not having yourself up there. And now once you have your page, then you can get reviews, right? Every time you finish a job and it's a successful job, they were happy, they pay the money. Hey, would you mind leaving us a review, on Google? And this could actually be automated once you really get into it. As soon as the invoice is sent, 3 days later, they automatically get a Google, review. Yeah. So those are the things that you want to have in place. All right. So the L and E are really the foundation, right? Locate your audience, establish your brand. Now we have what we need to start doing outreach, right? So that's why we get to A here, automate outreach. And there's a few other GPT examples that I want to show. Well, it's actually one. The link is these both links to the same system. But you want to make sure you have some outreach scripts, right? I always recommend having one document, one page document that just has your initial outreach message, if it's a DM, if it's a LinkedIn, message DM, or if it's an email, right? You don't want to be making up messages and kind of figuring out what to say. That actually what holds a lot of people up in the first place, right? So a big part of this system is just having a one page of, hey, these are the messages that I literally just copy and paste. When it's Wednesday and I have my time to do outreach, I'm going to this document I'm copying and pasting to, 10 or 15 people. That's it. Right? Because when you sit down, you have to like figure out, hey, what am I going to say here? So that's very important. And I would say the next level to this is actually having a VA or virtual assistant that can send DMs for you. Right? That's the next level of unlock. So you can do this manually, right? Or you can have someone else do it. And I've gotten to the point now where I actually have a VA. She's logged into my LinkedIn, and her job is to go and reach out to about 15 or 20 people per day with a simple message, outreach. Hey, I noticed that you were, in this industry, or hey, we have a free, tool that I'd like to share with you. Would you be open to that? And her job is to look for drone business or autonomous company owners that reach a certain our specific ICP, but that's her job. That's what she gets paid to do: send DMs and send emails. So it's either someone has to do it again, or you have to do it. So you have to decide, like, do you have the time? Do you have the bandwidth to sit down and do it? Otherwise, you could probably find a VA to do that. And shameless plug, we this is something that we offer at Global Air. So if you do need assistance doing something like that, you could always reach out to me as well. One of the tools that I wanted to show you that you get also for free here, it's called the Drone Outbound uh, system. And we got some thanks, Robert, for the chats. Robert for that. And then yeah, I think that's Adrian. Appreciate the comments there. All right, so we're gonna look at this tool. And the reason I created this tool was well, a few things were happening. I mean, we had a lot of folks that, it was kind of a challenge to understand what do I say, right? When I'm reaching out to someone, what should the messaging be? What should it look like? So how you would actually use this, and again, you're gonna get access to these tools. That's Chris's presentation. Um, All right, so in this, you're going to get this exact tool here, but this is actually the number one prompt that I have here. It's called a drone outbound system. And really, all you need to put is two outputs. Just like you guys remember when we did the case study example just now, but then we can use this drone outbound system. And this is going to create a series of messages, for us. So let's just kind of come up with a target client ICP. Anyone want to throw out an example?
Sorry.
No worries. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Any example ICPs? Real estate? Okay.
Agent.
All right, let's go with commercial real estate brokers. So commercial. All right, and we'll say Houston, Texas. All right. Now, this is actually going to do a scan, right? It's actually forced to look, online to see, all right, what are the different trends and the things that are going on and the way to understand this, right? So we now have a list of core pain points. So when you think about the pain points, these are literally the things that keep this audience up at night, right? It's not the fact that they don't have drone footage, right? It's the fact that, yeah, there's competitive pressure to differentiate listings. There's inability to showcase, property scale and site context. Time lost coordinating traditional photography and inspections. So the drone services that you can offer to match that. Here's a list of technical terms that they use, right? Because a lot of times as drone professionals, if we're not already from that industry, we may not, understand the lingo or the terminology that they use. And this is actually the biggest mistake I see with some of these high value industries. It's like you can't just walk on a job site with a drone, a construction site with a drone, right? And you got to speak their language. Um, what makes them buy? So, of course, listing launches, competitive bidding situations, tenant tours, investor presentations. This also gives you an offer statement that we just, went through here. So offer, this actually goes and searches like current pricing rates, which is also pretty cool as well. It gives you like some pricing tiers that you can consider offering. Now, this isn't, these are just estimates, right? But the one thing I will say as far as, packaging is you want to use the idea of I always like the idea of giving three different options. It's the low, middle, and the high option. Typically, we have something called price anchoring, where the high of the three price will be like the high, the big package. A lot of times, it could be 2 to 3 or 4 times what the middle package is, and a lot of times we just do that to um, display that high price, but then kind of direct them to the middle option, right? The middle option is typically the sweet spot where, you're happy, they're happy. And yeah, it's just kind of a sales type of trick where, you price this high package so high that like, whoa, this is pretty high. Then they see the middle package and feel a little, better about it. And then this is actually my favorite piece of this tool here, where you actually get, some outreach scripts that you can use to, send to these folks. Now, with everything with AI, I'm never going to recommend that you just copy and paste. There take a minute to, tweak it, put your version to it. There may be something that's probably not, a relevant situation that's listed here, but this now gives you a really easy way to follow up, with your clients, right? Um, there's a few examples here. Brokers tell me that, strong visuals accelerate buyer inquiries. Showing context from the above often reduces questions and accelerate tours. Can we chat 10 minutes this week to see if area media could help your current listings, right? And there's different angles that you can use to approach them. Now, you also have some LinkedIn DMs if you're targeting them on LinkedIn. Here's some other examples you can hear, and then the follow up, right? Different ways, to follow up to say, hey, just checking in to see if you got my, previous message and so forth. So you want to have kind of a system to consistently follow up. It's not about, again, just reaching out, one time. You want to make sure that at least, you can approach them, in the right way. We even have a list of like objections, and responses to those objections here as well. So definitely use this tool, Drone Outbound. This is really used to help you, again, frame your approach. And we've structured this tool so that it specifically works for drone businesses, right? This is very specific to, the businesses and things that we work with. Um, any questions about this tool? Anything?
So this is a tool that's inside the ChatGPT?
Yeah, so it's a tool that we created
Okay.
inside. Yeah, so we had to prime it with the right way to answer the question, how to frame the responses, and so forth. So if you just use the regular version, you won't no, you won't get that result. You have to use this specific GPT.
This is great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that should definitely help at least. And then again, you could do it for any industry, right? So right here I just typed in again. It's just two outputs for here. So commercial real estate. So this could be just since we're here, let's say Keegan, who you broke with?
Uh, Usually surveying construction, so
Okay,
I guess surveying firm.
surveying firms. In Houston,
Yeah.
and so it's doing a search here. Looking at market demand. And we even have a number here about the number of surveyors, in the market, some of the context as well. Let's see. We'll have to refresh. see. Repeatable right output. Oh, there we go. So again, what are those pain points? Liability exposure on hazardous sites, intense project deadlines, pressure to deliver high density geospatial data, competition from firms adopting advanced tech. So there's different services that you offer here, technical terms that they use, control points, RTK, PPK, GNSS, DTMs, digital terrain models, right? These are the things that they are discussing. We help surveying firms in Houston avoid costly delays, data gaps, and field exposure by delivering rapid survey grade aerial mapping and deliverables without extended field crews, long turnarounds, or inflated labor costs. You know, and then now again, you get your outreach script bank here. I noticed your team handles complex site surveys across Houston Metro with project windows tightening and clients asking for higher density maps faster. Would you be open to seeing how survey graded area mapping could shave days off your deliverables? Our recent clients have accelerated topo and volumetric capture on sites without extended field crews. Could we book a 15-minute call this week? Obviously you can, jazz it up how you want, but the idea here is we want to get meetings. We want to book meetings, right? One of the most important metrics from this entire system is how many meetings have we had to promote our service, right? It's almost the middle of February. You could ask yourself, how many discovery calls have I had this month? How many did I have in January, right? That's a good indicator of how the wheels are turning. If you're not having any meetings, then you're not getting any closer to the work, right? So one of the most important KPIs you want to be tracking is how many discovery meetings have I had, on a month-to-month basis. So again, definitely use this tool as a resource. And just to kind of quickly get through, I know we're coming up on our last half an hour here. Let's go back to the worksheet. All right. So we're on the A tab. We talked about outreach. We talked about following up. We talked about how to track. So on this sheet, you actually have a simple form that you can use, right? I actually this year I got rid of all of our CRMs. I said this is just too clunky. This is too much. Why can't we just have everything on a simple spreadsheet? So these are just some kind of just mock information, kind of made up information. But you can of course swap these as needed. But you see here you have the lead name, the title, the company, the status, where the lead come from. When did you first outreach, right? Because sometimes we just lose track of, who we talk to, right? Um, and so forth. So you don't have to fill out every single column. I think the most important thing is to make sure you're actually just writing down the person's name, right? And then sometimes we actually do this on a month-to-month basis, right? So we'll have a list of leads that we talked to in January, and then maybe below this, we'll, go from February and so forth, right? But you want to be able to, see, all right, who do I talk to? Who did I talk to last time? Who do I need to, reach out to? And again, I'm not a fan of all these clunky CRMs. You got to log in and find out. We keep things simple around here, right? So put the name down, understand when you last reached out to them, and just refer to this spreadsheet, right? It's literally just as simple as that. So we had a track and sleep sheet, one weekly outreach block. So just pick a day, pick a time, right, that you're generally able to do the outreach, and then have a system for getting referrals or asking for those Google reviews. Last two letters here in the lead system. So D, we have for develop relationships. This is also very underrated because again, it's not just about reaching out and reaching these people with automated outreaches. It's the nurturing, right? How are we developing the relationship? One thing, my father told me, my father's, lifelong entrepreneur. That's kind of where I got my ideas from, but he always said people do business with people they know. Because I used to ask him, like he was a contractor in Baltimore, and he had a lot of government contracts, and yeah, work would just be coming in. I would join him to different. I said, Dad, like how do you get work? Like how do people? He said, some people do business with people they know, and it's always kind of stuck to me because sometimes you want to rush the sale and you want to put something in front of them, but they have to trust you, first of all. They have to know who you are, probably have to see you a couple of times, right? Before they're just going to start putting a bunch of money in your pocket. So, one of the best ways to do this and be seen, and I can without a doubt say this has single-handedly been a factor that's changed my career as a drone industry person, but is LinkedIn, right? And I would say the biggest thing to keep in mind is it's not just about posting your updates, like, hey, I'm here today, or hey, I was at this event. It's are you educating your audience, right? Are you telling them, yeah,
No, pretty much, are you educating your artists on what you can offer?
exactly, exactly. The pain points. Can they feel that you understand, their deep pain points? So to take this a step further, if you want to get good at LinkedIn and just kind of that, understanding copywriting is very important. It was a skill that I never thought I would ever have to, pay attention to. But yeah, copywriting is very important. Um, Okay, yeah. So, sorry, just there's a question here from Ken. Can you search by county? This is going back to that tool. Yes, you can get specific with the county as well. Absolutely. Like you can get very granular with that. You can put a zip code as well. Would the drone outbound look? How the drone outbound look for thermal roof inspections? We can give that a try. Get a couple minutes here. But yeah, it works for any type of service, or thing that you want to offer. It can work in there as well. I know first president we have to get some. All right. Yes. And then there's a question, can I integrate this in the ChatGPT paid for? Yeah, so I think you can actually be able to use this since it's on our account, something that we created. You should be able to use it with a free version, but I would absolutely highly encourage you to if you don't have the paid ChatGPT version, it's $20 a month. It's probably the best $20 I've ever spent, on a tool. It's like it's having like a personal assistant literally, in your pocket. Um, so I'll just kind of put, LinkedIn. I can't say enough about LinkedIn. Monthly newsletter is very, very important, mainly for your warm leads, right? Remember that list that we put together for our warm leads? Just once a month, just talk about maybe two or three jobs that you did, even if you didn't do a job that month, right? It's something that can go out to say, hey, these are the 5 lessons that we've learned, over the past couple of months, or these are the trends that we're seeing, in this particular industry. But it's that whole out of sight, out of mind thing. Um, and as you can imagine, we're working on a tool for this as well. Basically, you'll be able to just, type in your industry and who you're looking to target with your warm list, and it will generate a template for you. But I can't underestimate this enough, the power of newsletters. Discovery meetings, I mentioned the importance of that, and then events. Showing up to where your ICP is located. What local events do they meet up? And I'm not just talking about the Chamber of Commerce. I'm talking about, construction luncheons or uh, you know, conferences that, going to have engineers, at that. I mean, this could even be pre-bid meetings, right? Something I wanted to talk about is where you're getting your lead sources. Like you're going to sourcing these RFPs and these bids. Pre-bid meetings, we used to go to these meetings for large construction projects, and we were the only drone company in this meeting of 15 companies who are bidding on one project, right? So it doesn't even matter if we get the job, right? We can send all our information to everyone or shake hands at those meetings. And then, once the job is finished, you can now get the bidders list, right? So who bid on this $10 million project? And you can now say, hey, I saw your name on the bidders list. We're, local drone company just keep our information here in case you need it in the future. Right now, you have a list of high quality leads, that you can be reaching out to. Lastly, and I'll get to our prompts core here. Deep work, again, getting back to that kind of mentality. You have to have deep work um, scheduled, right? So for me, I actually don't take calls on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, right? Because I'd rather leave those days open. And of course, there are always calls that come in on Monday, but in general, you can't book a call with me outside of Tuesday and Thursday, right? I like to leave Monday, Wednesday, and Friday just as open as I can. I also don't take calls before like 10 a.m., my time. I have an 8-month-old, right? I like to spend a little time, with him in the morning, right? Why should I have to jump on calls 7 and 8 o'clock, every single day? So when you control your time, when you control the things that you do, like you can fit everything, into a schedule. The KPIs I talked about, how much outreach you're doing, how many replies that you receive, how many meetings that were booked. I'm not saying that you have to be tracking all these on a daily, weekly basis. When you get help or assistance, someone that can help you do these things, but yes, you want to be tracking how many messages did I send this week, right? If we get to the point where we know that, all right, if we send out 100 messages, we know that we're going to get at least maybe 5 to 8 calls. From those 5 to 8 calls, we can close 2 of those people, then you know that you need to be reaching out, that 100 on a consistent basis. What happens is we may reach out to maybe 3, 4, 5 people within a span of 2 or 3 weeks. And then when nothing's happening, we're like, oh, you know, what's going on, right? So these things have to be tracked. And then lastly, the core AI prompts. In this worksheet that you're going to get has really links to all these prompts that we were looking through. So the drone outbound system is linked here. The drone case study operating system that we looked at earlier is here. Just a few quick worksheets, sorry, other prompts. So this is actually one of my favorite prompts. This is literally to improve any output that you get in ChatGPT. So let's say you're creating I don't know, blog post or even like a concept note or something like that, but it asks you to analyze and act deeply as a senior strategist, identify anything missing, unclear, off-brand, or call out weaker red flags. There's even a place that says, then provide clear, specific suggestions to make the final version more persuasive, polished, and bulletproof. This had to go to a top client or investor. Would you hit improve before hitting send? Be thorough and brutally honest. So literally, you're telling it to attack, the output that just came out. Because I'm a firm believer the first thing that AI produces is never the best version. This second one here is producing a SOPs, right? So let's say you needed a process to write a newsletter. You wanted to hire someone to write your newsletters, or to create a content folder, or SOP for your in field task, right? A lot of times, for these high value construction or engineering clients, if you have an SOP for your operations, like operations manual or your safety checklist, right? You can literally just enter whatever the task is that you need here, and this prompt will create a full SOP that you can use. Then lastly, one of my probably favorites here is this discovery called recap generator. And this is actually a pretty powerful one. Act as a senior strategist and business development lead for Fortune 100 consultancy, analyze a transcript of the client for partner discovery and generate a structured technical recap for internal use, identify the company name, industry, product, stage of growth, who attended, the meeting's purpose, major talking points, extract major opportunities. So you're literally just, and it's so hard to get a list of this from just, your casual phone call. You're never going to be able to write down all this type of information. So one of the things that I do is I literally record all my discovery sales calls with an AI note taker. I literally just copy the text from that transcript and just put it at the end of this prompt. And then it gives you, all the outputs that you have to do. So yeah, resources are here, AI prompts are here. The one last thing before I have our second special guest here, I wanted to just kind of explain quickly about how to actually get leads in an easy way. Now, there are multiple ways, of course, to do this. Let's see, Excel. So leads can come from a few different sources. Skip forward a bit. All right, so where do you find leads, right? This is always like the sourcing. Trade associations, conference exhibitor lists, LinkedIn filter by title, industry, geography, local building permit databases, if want to search there, procurement portals, I mentioned pre-bid meetings, press releases announcing expansion and funding. Like these are all ways that news and insight is coming, right? It's not just, listing on Google, who are the companies listed there. Like if you're paying attention to the news, your local business journal, right? They always talk about, major projects that are going on there. So once you see those things, just get in the habit of, all right, who is the company behind this? Or maybe there's multiple companies that are mentioned, and then you can always, write that down. So of course, you can go and do all that. That's a very, can be a very manual process, or you can use a tool that we have that's actually what we call the Global Air Intel uh, report. This is actually a solution that we came up with, and how this works is each month we actually send you a list of all that information directly, compiled into a report. Typically you have, 30 tabs open and you're looking around for, where to get information, but we create a profile based on your specific targets. And then we send you a list of opportunities based on the folks that you're trying to reach. So we have different news stories here. We have, market signals. We have construction, infrastructure, of course, based on your target market. Um, and then how this works is you can look through and see, all right, which one of these applies to me, right? And then you can go click on the actual, opportunity. This is 200, $63 million of work, right? This leads you to, where this source came from, and then you can say, all right, who's behind this project? Who's moving this capital? The whole idea of this Intel report is that we're only sourcing money, where money is moving, right? We're not sourcing like donor type of projects. So the idea is that you look through each of these opportunities, and this can really help simplify how you are targeting specific leads. So you can get a free sample of this report. This would actually give you, a list of folks you can start targeting in your area. To get this, you actually would just go to globalairU.com slash Intel. And again, you put your name and what you do, and we will create a free sample report for you. And then you already have the resource to the outbound system, right? So you can literally just take what's in that report, put it in the outbound system, and then you have your way to reach out to them. Yeah.
And then tell them that you see me for oncology.
Um, it can. I mean, we've done it where it's like a statewide search. So we can definitely absolutely do that. But yeah, you have some people like, for instance, we work with some Blue Nose franchisees, and they are in there's some that are in like there are multiple franchisees in the same state. So sometimes we have to like really yeah, close it down. But we can absolutely do it, yeah, on a state by state basis, depending on the type of work that you're doing. So you simply tell us, hey, we're looking to work with this type of client. We'll put together a profile for you, and then you get the report. This is available on subscription as well. So we have a monthly subscription that we send out, and then we're still kind of in our beta phase right now. So this is something that you would like. Right now, we have it for about $99 a month, and this will give you a solid list of leads. There is a walkthrough video that shows you exactly how to use it as well. When you're ready. So yeah, this is AI. This is the future of how we do things. I will preface that, we do vet all these opportunities as well. So we're not just like copy and pasting everything, from what AI gives us. We are going through and making sure all the opportunities, match to your particular client and what you do. So yeah, so I'm going to send out these resources after the workshop is finished. Um, I wanted to give a last opportunity for us to hear from our special guest we have here, Mr. Andrew Suki Cho. Andrew's actually in town with a colleague from South Korea, and I wanted Andrew to give us some perspective on the drone industry in South Korea and how it can relate to our businesses here, in the U.S. And I felt, it'd be a perfect time to explain, what they do in the industry and what we can learn from there as well. So, Andrew, please give you a few minutes and then
Yes.
we'll wrap everything up from there.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
I actually sent you in WhatsApp,
Okay.
just a brief presentation.
Gotcha.
I know this is not something that we I've known for a while now, and I'm very impressed that he wears so many different hats because we are always engaged in global projects, especially in Africa, and he's such a respected person, not only as an entrepreneur in the local market in promoting uh, drone industry here, but globally, very much engaged in the global market. Africa is probably everyone knows Africa Drone Forum. Uh, that's how we have uh, built our network and relationship, and now he is very much involved in the Asian market as well. So he's making the world smaller by bringing the drone community together. So I think it was very interesting what mentioned, because whether we are in Korea or in Houston or Nepal or Kenya, we all have the same objective, trying to promote our business, to try to create the market. After all, we are wanting to make this, even though we are passionate and we're wanting to continue to do this, it has to make a living. So I'm very much uh, pro making a very successful business. And there's a very big difference, though, that I realize between the Korean market and the US market. So, reviewed all the leads, each one, and how important that those steps are. But here, the market is very big. In America, the market is very big. Houston offers many different opportunities. Korea and most of the world, all the countries in the world, the markets are small. So we have to depend on a lot of government promoted programs. So in Korea, the market is small, so we have to go and export our services a lot. And as you all know, DJI has been the big, huge, dominant player globally, and Korea has been very strong in the software side, on the operating system. The hardware, China, DJI, they still dominate. We're catching up to them. Of course, there's a window of opportunity in the US market, because there's a lot of talk about restricting the market, and perhaps we could close the gap where we can bring in the Korean technology to replace some of the Chinese drone. But I think the strength that Korean market offers is not just the hardware, but as I was saying, software. I mean, Korea has been way ahead of China in terms of AI, all the different technologies. You know the name Samsung, LG, car makers. So it's not that we don't have the technology to be able to catch up on the hardware side, but it's just simply that we started late. And now, because of the government involvement in Korea, we are able to really start to catch up in the market. And the very interesting point that I wanted to make, we are always saying, oh, wow, the drone market is growing at 10, 20% each year, but everyone is saying, well, how come I'm not growing 10, 20% each year? And the Korean drone makers are really, and drone solution companies are really focusing on the lead that the Korean government is being subsidizing and supporting. So Kenya, Africa, all the emerging markets offer a great opportunity if we know where and who is providing the funding. Because after all, a lot of countries cannot really independently buy 10 drones. It's too expensive. The price index is completely different. So the World Bank, African Development Bank, IDB, many different NGOs. They're global support supporting institutions that are really putting projects out there where we have the opportunity to participate. So that's our focus. We're focusing on global projects, environmental projects, very large policy scale type projects where they're dealing with the crisis situation, flood disaster recovery system, establishing GIS platforms for the government to digitize a lot of their land cadastral system, a lot of survey type where you're building, they're all been done manual. All the land records have been recorded manually. So a lot of the countries that we have been in the Ethiopia, Tanzania, they want to digitize their land cadastral system. And it's a huge undertaking. It's sometimes 30, 40, 50 million. And we go as a consortium to participate on those projects where you have a system digitizing all the land data, and we are actually doing the mapping and providing the actual survey part. Of course, you have hundreds of thousands of parcels that need to be mapped in cities, and some of the parcels cannot be done all by aerial photo. There's so much canopy, and so there's a lot of hybrid survey that needs to be done. We take the aerial survey, we would use a lot of the total station, GPS, and do the whole, sometimes the network, the ground control, first order, second order. So it is a very big project that we participate. So if a lot of the companies would be interested in because we know that the US is very advanced in the survey, GIS, and there's plenty of projects that needs to be done. But since the US is such a big market, I don't think many of the companies would be interested in going abroad to do these projects. So we have never really worked or tried to work on partnering with drone companies or surveying companies, environmental, agriculture drone. But I think it would be a great opportunity for us. I mean, is working with many of these African countries. We try to get the funding from many of the agencies that are focusing on the development and improving the countries. So that's a combination. So it is not as clean as what Ina was mentioning, where you target the lead. Our target is always government, foreign government, and as well as funding sources. So it has to have the interest, and then we provide the technology to do it. So identifying those would create the project, and we pitch what kind of solutions, and that's where branding comes in, and then relationship building is highly important. So with that in mind, I just wanted to introduce briefly about our company and how we have developed this type of platform. We are focusing more on trying to target and our competition is more the manned aircraft or satellite imaging, because what we have try to focus more. We are a software and hardware company that we focus very strongly on the software side. And the operating system, the GCS system, is where instead of one pilot, one drone, or one team of pilot, one drone, we are consolidating into one central system, where the central system would operate theoretically hundreds of drones at once. So it is a enterprise multi drone operation system where it's cloud-based. So you can basically be here and this is the central command, and you have all the local offices. You could actually engage someone just turns the drone on, and you could engage, you could plan your mission here and start, and it will just all operating from one location, basically. So that is so that's the concept. And of course, it's with all robotics. It's not just with drone, but it could be USV, robots, ground robots. So everything is agnostic, basically. So the software itself, we have the hardware, but if you want to integrate your DJI or any brand that you're working, all we need is the permission, the IP permission, and then we could actually integrate those to operate within the system. So the advantage is that you could pretty much control from remotely, and you could operate a much larger fleet all at once and coordinate that. That would be the advantage of having a system like this. And it's called the N1 UCS, and we could even access the N1 UCS from here. And yeah, the video. This is just a demo of operating 3 drones, for example, from our platform. This was in Bangladesh, and we are mapping the forest there because there's a lot of deforestation. They want to start measuring how to reforest the area, and needs to measure. We could put spectral. I think control from the beginning. I think from the beginning where the video is. It's just really cool to see. Yeah. And I know some of the places on the less developed or emerging markets are very remote. So we could probably, we have integrated Starlink, for example, for the communication and to be able to access and to link the operation side. This is 3, but you can have theoretically 5, 10, and not in just one place, but you could have one in Houston and the other one in Dallas somewhere, and all operated from one location. And the advantage is that you can pretty much map a huge area, corridor mapping, or you need to cover one flight, and it's a VTOL, so 3 square kilometers per flight. If you have 3, you can get 10 kilometers in one flight, and then a day, a much more larger area. So the reason why we started investing more on the R&D is because now we are definitely moving into not just operating a drone, but how to operate a drone with a solution efficiently to be able to be competitive. So it is no longer, we have realized in the Korean market, it is no longer very impressive just to operate a drone and provide one solution, but to have something else where, as Ina was mentioning, what's your branding? It's not what we're doing, but what is the result that we're going to deliver? what is the outcome? That's where we want to focus in. Of course, a lot of people can do orthophotos and produce that now, but how effective and how big of an area, how much savings are we giving? So there's a lot of relationship that the relation building aspect that is even a much stronger focus in the global market. And it is definitely something that we should all be taking step by step and in order to make a more systematic approach. And I just wanted to take this opportunity how we are trying to develop some of the policies and tapping into the markets abroad, and we would always welcome partnership with the U.S. Enterprises, with U.S. companies that would like to join in the partnership abroad as well, and domestic of the UCS.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, great presentation. I really appreciate our presenters today. We think we had a few interesting perspectives from, the wealth management planning and getting our business, exit ready to, of course, hearing from the Korean perspective. And hopefully everyone here was able to leave with some tools and tips and templates. We'll be doing more of these, workshops. And yeah, all the questions here, I know there were some questions that we really didn't get to specifically, but in the reply message that goes out, you'll get a link to the one pager that has all the resources on it. And then we'll also have some answers to the questions. Every question that was asked here, we'll make sure that the answers are there. You'll have Andrew Suki's information. There'll be a link to his presentation and also the stuff that Chris presented as well. And if you need any help, reach out. This is what we do. We do business branding and strategy. Request an intel report. You can get your own sample. And yeah, this conversation, of course, doesn't stop here. Business development is it's a marathon. It's a journey for sure. So I know might be excited and ready to explore some things today, but looking forward to seeing everyone's progress from there. So if you're joining us online, thank you so much for the questions and the interaction. I see some very great questions. And yes, this is recorded, so the recording will be sent out and you guys can go back and look at everything. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us online. Thank you to our folks here, in person as well. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good rest of your day.